Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to the Open5GCon. This is the session about modern CI/CD or continuous integration and continuous delivery in the context of the telecommunication network. Today I'm your host, Federico Iezzi, part of the Red Hat EMEA telco team. I've been working in the OpenStack space for now about almost a decade, and more recently, in the past probably 5-6 years, I've been focused on the telco market, started in the early days of the virtualization effort, and now more and more approaching the 5G and the containerization changes.
Thank you for the opportunity, Federico. Hi, everyone. My name is Nilay, and I'm Domain Chapter Lead at Spark New Zealand. Me and my team look after integration, fulfillment, and CI/CD area at Spark. I come from IT background in telco and recently been tasked to look after Spark's telco cloud strategy. Today, I'm keen to talk about CI/CD journey and our focus on VNF onboarding process. Thank you.
So, a quick introduction of what's CI/CD all about before we start with our with the question for our panelists. So, when we say CI/CD, we refer to continuous integration, and when we say CI/CD, we refer to the continuous delivery of such changes. So, continuous integration stands for the automated way of making changes, and executing a test suite that will then provide a view of the insight whether those changes have had any meaningful impact, there have been a regression, and so on and so forth. And the continuous delivery aspect is actually the automated rollout of such changes, of course, upon a successful execution of the test suite. Looking at a typical CI/CD workflow, over here, we can see a very, I would say, a very standard CI pipeline with the 3 typical phases of the merge phase, the deployment phase, and the testing phase. Deployment that actually happens over representative environment with all sort of typical components like smoke test during the merging phase, and storing all the results in Git, and Git being the source of all the contents and all the artifacts in the platform. And last, the testing phase, covering all the possible, this is specific for telco, all the possible scenario like API functional testing, performance for control and data plane, and also all the regression testings specifically in this pipeline. So I would like at this point to go to our panelists for our list of questions. So we are organizing in different sections, and at the beginning we have the history section, and now everything kind of what for the original reason and so on. So I would like Christian, Eli, in turn, I would like to approach you with the first of our questions. So what was the primary aim at the beginning of your CI/CD journey, and what was the biggest change when you achieve it?
I guess we also started our journey with IT. The key thing that we wanted to achieve back in IT was to be more efficient and taking changes to production. Back in time when we started the journey, Spark also had decided to go agile organization-wide. That meant that where we used to do bigger projects, now we had a number of squads doing different implementation, which demanded more releases in production. So we had to be efficient, and we had to take releases to production more frequently. CI/CD has brought a lot of benefit for us. It's been adopted as part of our culture now. We have pretty mature CI/CD implementation now in IT, and we are keen to take the journey to networks as well. Our IT team is now doing weekly deployments, and we do a massive big deployments as part of our monthly release as well. I think the one thing that stood out for us was the COVID situation. So if you think about the lockdown, we used to do bigger releases from office premises. When we were in lockdown, because of CI/CD, we could do remote releases without any hurdles.
Very, very interesting, definitely. Okay, so and how about the cultural shift that you observe by implementing the CI/CD? Let's say process and way of working, Nilay.
So I think some organizations think of CI/CD as a value addition, while at Spark, CI/CD is the core of development. So we think of CI/CD now as in earlier stages of planning or solutioning, right? For example, I've been involved into one of the open source implementation recently, and one of the key requirements that we had was to make sure that the solution that we design is compliant to our CI/CD standard. So it's no more a secondary thing anymore. As our day-to-day life, it's primary and part of the main plan.
Would you like to talk about your CI/CD technological stack? Because I think it's very important for the audience to provide an overview how you have implemented your entire CI/CD solution.
I think we also try and get value out of test automation and linking the information part of our CI/CD suite, But we have very contradicting situation in IT and network lens today. While our CI/CD implementation in IT is very modern and advanced, we've got little automation and networks workload implementation CI/CD part of the world. In IT, we use a single tool starting from capturing requirements to decomposing requirements into build task, and then link that build task to build task to the actual source code and pipelines, and then onto bug tracking, right? So this gives us a huge advantage of capturing valuable analytics out of the whole end-to-end CI/CD process, or even beyond CI/CD process, right? It gives us information that which initiatives, for example, is taking more time on the build phase versus which initiative has got more bugs raised being later on, and then you can further on determine the quality of the build work as part of the production deployment, and further on as part of the bugs, So I think we've got very mature implementation of CI/CD in IT. Like I say that we're pretty traditional methods in network workloads today, but little automation. So what we have been doing is defining a telco cloud strategy, and first step as part of the whole telco cloud strategy is to define the horizontal platform. We've got 5 different OpenStack implementation today, and we want to minimize it to single horizontal OpenStack, and then focus on defining VNF onboarding process on top of that, and automate it as well.
Right, Nilay. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Even though the gap between, as you mentioned, the telco land and the IT land is now kind of similar and is narrowing down, is similar type of technology, and the gap is narrowing down. I think there is still like huge, massive differences between the two worlds, and in fact also in terms of the products. If we just look at OpenStack, it's used. It's a very different beast, IT, from what used to be to actually how telco actually leverage the OpenStack capabilities. Looking at the next one, is a very similar question, but instead of being focused on specifically on the CI/CD pipelines, actually on the overall CI/CD process. And the question is for you, Nilay.
I guess some things that we have learned is basically we started small, but we always realized that we should have thought bigger and as a wider picture of the whole release instead of thinking small pipelines. So we automated the component pipelines. We realized that when we want to now automate the whole release, we need more than that, right? So we had to extend the whole framework later on, So I would say that always keep in mind the wider picture that you're trying to achieve as part of the whole automation, Think about test automation earlier on, which I think has become quite a vital part, as Christian mentioned as well. We also realized that the APM deployment could be standardized as part of a pipeline. So all our containers now being deployed into Kubernetes platform has got standard APM platform that we use today deployed as part of the container, that could provide the metrics back to the server. We also started realizing that some of the development standards that we use in our team, or configuration standard that we use, those could be validated as part of pipeline as well, and make sure that it has been reviewed before you start progressing your pipelines further. One thing that has become very vital now is security testing, and also DevOps is also now called DevSecOps, which is extended version when you want to start injecting security testing as part of your pipelines. So we are now extending our pipelines to do static and dynamic testing as part of the pipelines as well, because we realize that we've got some application that is front-facing and it could be exposed to vulnerabilities. One thing that we realized, but I think that kind of worked well for us, and I would like to emphasize is the benefit for us was we were using single tool for automation. If there is no single tool for the automation, this was mainly for IT, but I think it's replicated for network and other areas as well. We're definitely keen to use the whole learning and network as well. But if there's no single tool, try and link the information that you're capturing as part of the end-to-end process so that there's value. You can capture the value out of it. For example, like I say that, we could define the readiness of release by looking at the whole information, saying that how many bugs are raised, how many development tasks are being performed on day-to-day basis, and so on. So there's definitely some values in that.
What's your personal opinion about the network workloads moving towards the containerized architecture?
I guess I think I would agree on the same point that you and Christian mentioned as well about standardization. I personally think that moving the network workloads to container native architecture basically gives it's a huge opportunity for network vendors to define more standard and interoperable network workloads when they're trying to decompose those functions and move it to the network cloud native architecture. Whether they will truly achieve that, or whether the workload will be truly cloud native like it is for IT today, I think it's too early to say at the moment. At Spark, our priority is still to implement VNF onboarding process for the virtualized workload. And we are in early conversation with some of the suppliers to start doing proof of concept on trialing out their cloud native workload into our lab, and we'll seek our path further on how the POC goes on.
I think an extremely valid point, Nilay. While in the T world, Kubernetes and containers are almost standard de facto nowadays, in the telco side is not there. We are not there yet. In the context of the CI/CD, would you describe your VNF lifecycle, considering all of the components of the lifecycle? So, like from the very early onboarding, scaling, and config changing, all the everything in the context of the lifecycle.
So I'll think about from the point of view of what we are thinking. We don't have a VNF lifecycle automated at the moment. We are pretty early stage. But I think we have spent quite some time in realizing what we need and what we need to prioritize when we want to automate the VNF lifecycle management, right? So what we are taking is we are building our own Mano architecture, basically to automate the VNF lifecycle management. But I personally think that the VNF lifecycle issues that persist today is not limited to Mano. Like there's more challenges than just the automation piece, right? Like certification issues that you encounter between platform, the version of OpenStack that you're using, or the proprietary version of OpenStack you're using, and the hardware itself. Is your hardware compliant on the OpenStack version that you're using? Maybe not. There's certification process for that, right? What we are doing is basically to automate the whole certification process, so we can choose our hardware and certify it ourselves instead of paying someone to certify it, right? There's also interoperability issue between the platform and network function as well. So when you try and do a multi-vendor implementation of network, where you got function from A vendor and platform from B vendor, there's often certification challenges, So the next challenge is basically, to solve that problem by having some technology solution as well as with some commercial solution, And there's always ongoing challenges that I see between the version dependencies and so on between platform and function as well. So in my opinion, I think lifecycle, even though we are still focusing on implementing Mano, our Trimline version of Mano, the lifecycle management for VNF is more than Mano. Definitely.
Really interesting point about automating the entire certification process. I hope everybody enjoyed, and I want to really say thank you so much, Christian. Thank you so much, Nilay. Really amazing session. Thank you so much,
It was a
everybody.
pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, guys.